Hello, hello, good evening. Welcome to Live in Conversation. So, I am in conversation this evening with my lovely co host. Hello, hello.
Good evening. Good evening to you, Daphne, and good evening to everyone out there.
Awesome. So, I am Daphne Antoine, and you are
Daphnée Camilien.
Chameleon of Chameleon Law. So, we come live every Wednesday to share information for family to thrive, immigration news. So this month we have a segment on financial literacy. So we have an amazing guest with you all this morning who's gonna share some tips and information that you can use to help you be financially savvy. With that being said, as always, we start for disclosure. So Attorney Chameleon, take it away.
Sure, I'm trying to adjust myself a little bit. Um, yeah, so I am an attorney. Anything that is said this evening is for information purposes only. It does not establish an attorney-client relationship. And Daphne Antoine is a financial entrepreneur. Anything that she says this evening does not establish a fiduciary duty between her and another person, and it's for information purposes only.
All right, all right. Thank you for sharing that. So come on and join the live, join your conversation, because it's all about money, knowledge, and thriving. So at this time, we're gonna have, as always, our immigration segment with Attorney Chameleon, who's gonna be letting us know of current immigration news.
Sure. So, what we're going to talk about this evening is the I-864, and what that is the affidavit of support. So, most people may know or may not know, if you are going to sponsor somebody to come to the United States to get a green card, you have to say you have to be able to support them, right? So the government does not want them to go on social services, or they don't want them to end up, destitute just to come here and not have any type of means to eat to support themselves. So you fill out an application, and you're saying that you're going to support the person while they're in the United States. And the only way to not support, not the way to kind of end the support is if the person, they get their green card. Once they become a citizen, you're no longer obligated to support them under the affidavit of support. So if they come here and they're 10 years old, you do affidavit of support, and they never ever get their citizenship, you could be responsible for them for the rest of their lives. The other thing is, another way to the affidavit of support could end is if that person works and gets what they call, if they are become eligible for Social Security benefits. And typically that's if a person works full time for 10 years, they can be eligible, they get credits, and they can be eligible for Social Security benefits. So if that person, the key is the full time, right? So if that person becomes eligible, once they're eligible for that, then the person is no longer financially obligated under the affidavit of support. Another third reason that can stop the support is that if a person dies, right? So if a person dies, you're no longer obviously obligated to them financially. Something that someone should know is that this is not something people fill out affidavit supports, they don't think about it, and they go about their way. It's not something that's, typically in the past was ever enforced in a court of law. But recently, there's been some cases that are starting to come up where the person that was, the immigrant that came here, ends up suing the person that filled out for them, the petitioner that filled out for them, because, and it usually happens, and sues them in court, right, for a breach of contract if they did not, or you're suing them to enforce it if they did not, if they don't no longer support them. And when this usually comes up is usually divorce cases. So you marry your person, let's say they're in Peru, you bring your your husband or wife, your affidavit of support or fiance, they come over here, you're married to them here, you're living happily ever after until you're not, and you decide to file for divorce. The person, the immigrant who is here, is saying, may say, well, I don't have any money, or I don't have any way to support myself. And so then they turn around and they sue the person that brought them here, financially, through asking that that affidavit of support be enforced. So this is very interesting, that it's starting to get enforced. It's usually seen, the cases I saw, or I was reading during my research, was reading about, were all under a situation for divorce. So it wasn't like a mother was suing her son, or a child sued their dad, or anything like that, or a brother sued a sister. It wasn't any of those situations. It was always a husband and wife, ex-husband and wife. So stay tuned. Back to you.
Stay tuned. Wow, wow, wow. I'm not sure if you saw my face when you were saying you going to sue the person, but now I understand it. Okay, so I understand it's mostly in divorce cases, and not somebody doing somebody a favor and say I'll provide support. So I've never been aware.
I you know what, it's because people do these, they never think about, like, the, well, it is a contract.
Yeah, it is.
They never think about the long-term effects. So it's interesting, right? Because you think, like, morally, like, you're thinking the person brought you here, it didn't work out, and then, but the law is the law.
The
So
law is the law. But
yeah.
for divorce is understandable because at the end of the day, you owe marital support. That I understand.
Well, so it's tricky. It's yes and no. So this is the thing, right? It's tricky. So let's say that they've only been married for like 3 years. And let's say that it depends. And so divorce, it depends on the state. Every state has their own laws. So you will get more support through this affidavit of support than, let's say, you're trying to get like marital support. Because let's say you've been married for 3 years, you're young, the court may say you can work, go find a job, you get a little bit of support for a year, but we expect you to find a job, and then, you're cut off. But with this marital support, with this affidavit of support, you're not cut off. You're not cut off.
Hey, that I think that's why we have an attorney here with us to share those type of information that the everyday person wouldn't know. And then, so as always, you all know that Attorney Camilien is in the Chicagoland area, providing her services to anyone who may need in her of her service. So she can help national, correct? You can
Right.
help national
Right.
client. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because it's immigration law and it's federal.
Right. So
Okay,
all states in the
all
United
states,
States. Yeah.
all states of the United States. So if you have been getting great information from her and maybe you or somebody you know may need her assistance, you can reach out to her at www.chameleonlaw.com, www.chameleonlaw.com, or call her at 847-410-9022, 847-410-9022. She is providing 15 minutes free consultation. 15 minutes. I know how we are, my Haitian people. Let's respect that. We reach out to her. Any question that you have, any concern, and maybe you are watching right now and you have a question that you would like us to answer live for you, type it in the comment. Reach out to us. Via our message box if you want to keep it confidential. And that's why we are here to share information and resources to thrive. And so at this time, I'm going to share anything else you want to add, Daphne, before I
Nope.
move on?
Nope.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing with us. So now, awesome. So this is I want to call it Resources to Thrive segment. Once I have an official name, I'll let you all know. But right now, it's Resources to Thrive segment. Last week, we had an amazing show with author, speaker, and coach Renee Godfrey. So this month is Financial Literacy Month, but we wanted to start with mindset because at the end of the day, I may bring all the expert to you all and have the conversation. But if we don't have the mindset to implement it, then it's just a waste of time. So that being said, I do want to share some information that he shared with us in case you were not part of that show, so you can take advantage of those resources to take you to the next level. So again, this is Live in Conversation. My name is Daphnée Antoine. I am a wife, mom, and entrepreneur in the Chicagoland area. And Live in Conversation is basically to have a conversation, to share resources, information, immigration news to thrive. So let me share my screen for my first resource. So for those of us who want to launch a career in the speaking industry, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you want to be a speaker or not. Every every profession requires speaking, I will assume. And then, so with that being said, if you're in a profession that requires you to speak and you need help, or you want to brush up on your speaking skills, one of the resources that Mr. Godfrey shared with us is Toastmasters International. So he let us know that um this is a program where it's most likely in your neighborhood, it's most likely where you are living, and if it's not where you are living, you can always start one. And so it's an opportunity to be with a group of people who are brushing up on their speaking skill, who's getting the confidence that they need so they can go to the next level in their career. And maybe they actually do want to be professional speakers. It's an opportunity for them to thrive there. So if you go to toastmasters.org, you'll be able to see all the options that they have available. You are able to find a club right there. So by clicking your zip code, it shows you exactly which area that you can attend. And with some of them, most I would say most of them are free, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them are free. I've participated, and obviously with everything that went on with Corona, it was Zoom as well, so it's virtual as well as in person. Okay, so that's my first resource for the day, toastmasters.org. The second one, let me stop screen, share again. Thank you for all the likes. I appreciate it. Feel free to comment. Please share, because we have an amazing guest who's going to share some great knowledge that is going to be beneficial to all of us. So, Mr. Rene Godfrey book, Kick Your Excuses Goodbye. We did not get a chance to feature his book last week, and I do want to go ahead and let you know about his book, because at the end of the day, what is stopping most of us is our excuses. So like I mentioned before, if we have the information necessary but we're not implementing it, it is a waste of time. And then if you find yourself in that situation where you need a little push and a little motivation to help you take action towards what we are sharing, toward maybe whatever else you are learning in your life, this book is a great resource that you can get started with. And right now, Mr. Godfrey has a $5.99 Kindle price that you can get it and then start on your journey of implementation. All right, I'm washing off because I do want to get to our guests. What did I do? Are you all with me? Yes, I am here. Awesome. So stop screen. My last resource for this evening is actually my guest this evening resource. So I'm giving you all a preview of his resource, even though he's gonna share it with us. Because if we are talking about money management and financial literacy, you need the tools to actually implement. And his website is the Neighborhood Finance Guy. And so it's basically what it's called, the Neighborhood Finance Guy. Pretty easy, a way that you can get the information that you need in a clear, simple manner, so that you can learn and implement at the same time. So I'm currently on his website, the Neighborhood Finance Guy. resource. Let me make sure it's being shown. It is awesome. So if you go to his page, you're gonna see resource, and he has many financial tools that you can access as you start on your journey to financial freedom. And if you scroll down, you are able to find different calculators that you can take advantage of to figure out how can I get rid of my debt, how long it's gonna take, which card should I start with, budgeting sheets. He has all of that there, and then you can see that I'm able to access this free of charge. Okay, so there are resources out there, and we want to encourage you to take advantage of them, because right now we are in 2022 and I still have a Tony Chameleon thing bar showing. It's all good. That's fine. We're in 2022. It is time for us to level up. It is time for us to go forward and take action toward our dreams of financial freedom. Yes, yes, Daphne?
Agreed.
Agreed, agreed. So this now is the moment that we've all been waiting for, and it is a privilege and an honor for us to have the man of the hour himself. He is a financial literacy coach. He is a federal auditor, and he is the creator of the Neighborhood Finance Guide. He is also a veteran with the Marines. Whoop whoop. So, without further ado, welcome, 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 our guest for this evening, Mr. Lawrence Delva Gonzalez. Hey, hey.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hello,
Welcome.
hello, hello.
Oh, I've been listening. I've been tuning in, been getting all the resources, and I'm not quite sure if I could follow this guy Godfrey. I didn't listen to the episode, but it sounded like he was dropping
Please.
all types of knowledge.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. So let's
Yeah.
give you a solo. You were saying something, Daphne?
No,
I'm
I was gonna
sorry.
say he started off our financial month with a bang, and you're gonna continue it on.
You're
Oh,
going to continue
it's kind
on.
of hard to follow like an Obama speech out here. You're like,
That's a
I
big
don't know if I
deal.
can do this. Like, I just showed up. Like,
No, you're amazing. So let me give you a solo. So let the people know who is Lawrence Delva Gonzalez. Go ahead and
oh,
introduce
shoot.
yourself.
Hey everybody, my name is Lawrence Delva-Gonzalez. I am Haitian American, hailing from Miami, Florida. But I just grew up in Haiti. Delma Trente, as they used to say, or Delma Trois. I think it was Delma Trois numéro 23. That's a whole different statement. But ultimately, I came back to the U.S. I've learned kind of how the money management works, and ultimately, I wanted to share that with everybody that I know, starting with my friends. I think the easiest way to understand my story, I started off broke with $120,000 worth of student loan debt as well as credit card debt. At the time, my friend said it was impossible to become rich, and I set out on the way to actually figure it out because, as we know in Haiti, they all say, "Hey, fais logique là." So that's the stuff I remember from that one teacher or professor I had, and ever since then, I took that information. I was like, you know what? Let me make this math work. Let me understand all the nuances. And I found that there are easier ways to become automatic millionaires, and we can all do it if we allow ourselves enough time and enough grace. And that's what I do. I share it on IG, and I also have a website that's award-winning, award nominated. Close enough. I won in my mind. That is the Neighborhood Finance Guy, where I share a lot of blog posts all the time, probably 2 or 3 times a week. As well as you could, like she stated, you could find a whole bunch of resources just for free on top of like budgeting, investing, taxation, so on and so forth. And finally, not least, we do have our own like financial literacy podcast called The Financial Griot with me and 2 other millennial women, lovely Mel DeLuce as well as Atlanta Alcin. So it's always a good opportunity to be here to share my expertise wherever I can. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions off the bat. So I'm gonna be firing at you. So
Okay, go ahead.
you
Hard
grew up,
questions though. Hard
you grew,
questions.
no, you grew up in Haiti. When did you come back?
I came back when I was 9. I did not come back by choice. Like I was lied to. Like my aunt says, "Hey, you want to go somewhere?" I'm like, "Yeah," and she kind of pointed at Florida. You want to go to Disney World? She was lying to me, and she just sent me back home.
Because you were born in the States, and I think we didn't say that. I know that because of my research. Yes. You were born here and then you moved to Haiti.
I didn't really move. I didn't have no idea. I was 11 months old. I don't know if you can't say that you moved. You just kind of like you were moved.
Right, for sure.
So
and
yeah,
then 9 years old, and then you said you accumulated this debt. What, like, because you have undergrad, right? I'm assuming it's all undergrad or graduate too?
It's undergrad. I had undergrad debt, and then I went back for graduate school, and that's where I picked up majority of the debt. So the majority of that debt was pretty much graduate. Like 80,000 was graduate.
Wow. So what made you, like, first, how long did it take you to pay it off? And then what clicked? What made you, because there's a lot of people sitting with student debt.
What clicked? One, I didn't pay it off. Let's get this out the back. Like, it's still here. And I think a lot of people always perceive, because me and my wife, our net worth has gone significantly from 2012, like a negative 125K, to today is like sitting at 700,000. Wow. So we took, it's just a path that you kind of have to take, and you have to understand what is known as financial order of operations. Okay. And when you understand that piece of advice, you start really moving in line with your money. So I still do have $80,000 worth of graduate student loan debt, but I'm a federal government employee. So therefore I qualify for the Public Student Loan Forgiveness Plan, the PSLF. So because I'm on the PSLF, I'm able to kind of stay on this plan for 10 years, make payments all those 10 years, and therefore all the debt will be miraculously go away.
Right.
Unfortunately, we were hit with the pandemic, but fortunately, that student loan moratorium, kind of was in effect ever since then. So the last 2 years, or even almost it's like 2.5 years or so of student loan payments were basically null and void. At the same time, because you're on PSLF, they all count. Non-payments count. So that means I still, literally the last 2.5 years, I didn't have to pay $1,000 per month worth of student loan payments. And all of that was used to kind of pay down my debt or even invest. So ultimately, all of that works in your favor if you play it the right way. But it all depends on the cards that you're dealt. On top of that, I have at the end of this, I'll have 3 more years and I'll be free.
Wow.
So, go ahead, Daphnée.
I was just going to say real quick. So you're the philosophy of building your wealth at the same time while paying off your debt.
Yes, as simply as that could be said, yes, but it's a little bit more than that. It's about playing the right cards at the right time. It's more strategic. I think there's some people, it's either, you fall into the camp of debt free or die trying, one or the other, right. or you're invest and do a lot of side hustles and so on and so forth. You're either falling in one or two camps. Me, I never chose. I was never one to kind of fall into any camp, so I kind of picked the best of all the worlds. So ultimately, I studied taxation for my graduate program. So I understood how taxes work. I understood if I invest more in tax advantage, vehicles such as your 401k, 403b, 457b, your IRAs, your HSAs, all of that reduces my taxable income. So I pay less taxes. And at the same time, this is the bonus part, the AGI is what controls how much I pay for my student loans. So the moment I started to do that, because I'm investing in myself, the AGI, the adjusted gross income that controls that amount, went from $1,000 down to $500.
Wow.
Literally like that. Why? Because I was investing in myself. So if people don't really know, and maybe it's because I study taxation, majority of tax is based off of biblical principles. As weird as it sounds, that's all it's ever been. It's one, you get benefited from being educated, so there's benefits and credits for that. You get benefited if you're married, so you get a preferential tax treatment if you are married. If you have dependents, either it be your kids or stepkids, so on and so forth, as long as it's legally valid, that's also part of it as well. If you're a homeowner or a business owner, you also get tax credits. So ultimately, what I was able to understand at that point is that if I invest in myself for my own well-being, because the government does not want to kind of look out for you in the end. They don't want to worry about you when you get older. So if you invest in yourself, you get the added benefit of being you get the tax reduction as well as the growth in your investments. So during that time, instead of focusing on just paying down my debts, I focused on ensuring that I was moving my money the right way.
Lots of great tips coming off the bat. So with that being said, thank you. Thank you. We are live in conversation, Mr. Lawrence Delva-Gonzalez, creator of the Neighborhood Finance Guy. He is a financial literacy educator here with us this evening, sharing his knowledge. So our topic for today is money management to succeed in life, because at the end of the day we need to know how do we manage our money, and that comes with financial literacy knowledge. So what would you say is your personal definition of financial literacy?
Wow, that is a hard question. Personal definition. Well, for me, financial literacy is the opportunity to become happier. That's really what it's always been for me. I didn't grow up without a lot of money. I didn't have, sometimes there was days I didn't have enough food in the fridge, at least in my perspective, or we didn't even have AC in the house in Miami, and it gets really hot in Miami. And I grew up in these scenarios where I just wanted to be free from the constant pain of stress and being hungry or being tired, being frustrated. So financial literacy for me is pretty much freedom, complete freedom to do what I can do and to kind of live in my purpose. And ultimately, that I think that should be the goal for everybody, but everybody has different goals.
Looks like you're living in your purpose. Daphnée, you want to ask a question?
Yeah. So wait, so you didn't, I don't think you said what clicked, or
What
was there
clicked?
anything that clicked that said, because as I have student loans,
Yes.
everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people I know have student loans, right, that are still paying for it. And if you went to graduate school on top of that, so, and coming from the legal background, which is a little bit different than like, people assume that if you're a lawyer, you're rich, right? Which is far from true.
I don't.
Right. Oh, good. So
I know. I know.
Okay, thank you. Because but it doesn't, it's not like a doctor where everyone makes six figures off the bat, whether it doesn't matter what practice field for the most part or close to it. You depending on law, depending on what you study, I mean not study, but what you go into, a teacher can make more money than you easily. And so if you think about that, you think about, I'll speak for the people I know, they have over $200,000 in student loan debt, right? And then if you're making $60,000 a year, that's insane. And so I've had friends say, I don't care, I'm never going to pay this off, right? So I'm just like, and they're just like, whatever, they pay the minimum and they're just like, I'm going to die with this debt. So what clicked with you?
Okay, let's start off with the top. One, that's a misnomer. You don't die with debt. I think that's an over exaggeration. I think the rule is that if you paid for the last 30 years or something like that, it literally kind of does the same thing. It gets wiped off. It's just like if you've been making payments, commiserate payments all over the place, at a certain point, it just goes away. There is such a debt. I forget what they call that one, but it actually exists, in which some people just don't pay. Like if you're not paying it and you're being inconsistent, that's on you. That's a whole different scenario. But if you're being consistent and you've actually been paying it for 30 years, the government just kind of looks at it like it's a wash. It is what it is, especially if you have federal loans. A lot of people do the mistake and jump into private loans when they have a lot of high loans and whatnot. They're like, hey, that looks cheaper over here. There's a deal over there. But just like I told you about the whole public student loan forgiveness, during the time when the federal moratorium was on for student loan debt, kind of like you don't have to repay, there's no interest, it didn't guarantee that the private sector did the same thing. So there's a lot of benefits with staying within the construct of the support system that you have with the federal side versus jumping over to the private side. For a lot of people that are dealing with even over $70,000, even $80,000 worth of student loan debt, even to the point of $200,000, you kind of have to make peace with the fact that maybe you might have taken too many loans for the career that you got in. I say that, and not in jest, but it's almost like we have to kind of accept, what we did. like half of us walk around as if like the student loan came out of nowhere. Like we were signing every year. Like it's like, oh, student loan, where'd that come from? Like we were signing every time. I remember I was at the office. The lady's like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I'm like, "I am sure." Like, do not dare question me again. Like, I'll be back next semester. Like, don't worry. So we were paying all of this stuff, and we weren't like, maybe we didn't go in there with enough mentoring, we didn't go in there with enough focus, and maybe other people weren't really pushing us to the direction that we needed to go, and with the understanding of, hey, it's going to cost this much in the end. So we weren't putting a lot of legwork. So now it's up to us to become these adults now that we were signing all this money for, and say, hey, let me now do the legwork. Let me figure out what's available to me. Especially for a lot of lawyers, if you're working in the public sector or you're working for the federal government, you also qualify for the public student loan forgiveness that actually has an IDR, which is an income-based repayment, or IBR, income-based repayment program. So there are available metrics, systems, and support that you can receive from the student loan if only you do the research and you actually call and ask. Because a lot of people just don't call and ask. They just kind of say, well, they resign themselves, Mbappe, I'm not gonna do this. I'm out. Like, but in truth, if you start doing the legwork, you'll start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. For a lot of people as well, you have to start making, I would say, lifestyle changes. That was one of the first thing I had to realize. Back in 2012, I was living in Tallahassee, Florida State University. I was in a four bedroom, 4-bath. I had four bedroom, 4-bath with my other buddies. And one day everybody was in the living room and they said, hey, we can't afford to invest. I think something came on TV and they just said that. It was a brilliant idea. It's like, we can't afford to invest. I looked around, I was like, I don't know, maybe can we not? I went back to my room and I started doing some research. I logged into this program called mint.com. Mint does provide you a full scope of what your wealth is, your budget is, where your money is, and all that stuff. And over 3 months, I tracked how much I was spending. And lo and behold, I, as one guy, one human being, was paying over $300. I think it might have been $360 for food each month on average. It was an insane amount. At that time, I was like, okay, let me take this a step further. And I actually did the numbers for my other roommates, my other best friends. So in total, a household of 4 guys, right, was spending $2,400 a month on food. At that point, you realize that we needed to make changes that were beyond us. And there's a lot of spending that we were making or we were doing that we weren't paying attention to. And that's where our money is going. That's where our decision process is going. And I think that's what the challenge is, because people do not want to change themselves in order to say, well, maybe I'm throwing away money somewhere. And it wasn't like we were eating steak and lobster here. We weren't going out some Ubers. They didn't exist at the time. We weren't doing none of this stuff. It's just like we were spending money. Sometimes we were buying groceries that we weren't eating. So we tossed it in trash eventually because it's spoiled. Or we were just kind of like, hey, let me go out to this restaurant. Let me go out to that restaurant. And it just was taxing us all over the place. We weren't playing the game anymore. And I think that's what changes, at least for me.
I want to follow up when you were speaking. I had a outburst when you.
Well, $2,400 a month. I'm like, I'll never forget that.
So when you talk about being in the financial aid office and signing for the loan, if we are being honest and fair, and I remember that. I remember it like as if I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah.
They call me in the office. It's like, you're gonna need a little extra here. Just sign here. There was no financial literacy class.
No.
But you didn't want it though. You didn't want it. Like, you didn't want it. At that time, you're like,
What did you get? Oh, I wanted it.
like,
You put up a requirement.
we have to go back in time. We needed the money
put up
and we
in a-
wanted to sign.
Yeah, what if it was a requirement that says, okay, before even before you get accepted to the school, right? This is us having a conversation. So what if before you even get accepted to the school, there is a plan? So don't just say, okay, I'm gonna select this school because I got accepted, but then part of the application process could be, okay, so this is where you want to go. These are the careers that you are considering, and this is basically the potential income that you can make from this type of career, and then this is potentially how much you're gonna be paying for your student loan. So I think there's ways that they can, I guess the education system can open our minds and then give us the knowledge that we need to make those educated decisions.
I'm
Because
being
I am
skeptical.
hurt right now. I'm feeling
I'm
hurt.
letting Daphne's. I'm gonna say both Daphne's. Turns out that one, there was these things all the time. We just didn't care. Like
I
this
didn't
is
know.
like telling a high school student right now, like, yo, man, how about you think about investing? Like, investing, I'm trying to go out this weekend. I'm trying to hang out. I'm trying to hang out with my friends. Like, we had different priorities that shifted us away half the time from to other things that we wanted to do, because we were living, we were growing, we were figuring ourselves out, we were trying to be young adults. There's a lot that we had to process, and it's why I said you gotta have grace within yourself, because it's the truth. But I was one of those people that pays attention, like, right?
Oh,
like,
okay, good for you.
glassceiling.com existed. It was actually linked to the student loan. Yeah. It was linked to the student loan thing. And even the student loan thing says, hey, if you take out this amount, this is the expected amount that you will pay. The federal government kept on trying to put it in front of people's face, but 9 times out of 10, people were just not interested. It's the wildest thing concept. Just like right now, when we think about financial literacy and they're like, oh, I never learned it in school. Okay, let's just, I'll give you that for now. But right now, you could go on YouTube at any moment and you'll always find it. You'll always find it. Like, you could go hit Google right now. You will find anything financial literacy, but you're like, I never learned it. You're like, do you want to learn it now? Like, that's the question.
Camilien, did you see how much you were gonna pay?
No, and I was, or if it was there, I didn't see.
Oh, if it was there,
yeah. But how long did you spend on that website? Like, a lot of people didn't, and that's the truth. Like, right now, I found out recently, because I was just on the Bloomberg like live thing, and the lady says there's mymoney.gov. I was like, what? You have a website called mymoney.gov? The government had been trying their hardest for years, for decades, because they know that a lot of people are basically becoming indebted to themselves, and at the same time, they're retiring broke. I would say probably only 20% of average American households are ready to retire at any time. Majority of people are getting out this game with $150,000 worth of debt because they've refinanced their homes multiple times. They've taken out too many loans for too many cars. They've, upgraded the house one too many times. Everybody is just not paying attention, and the government knows this. This is like a this is a full issue, a full-on crisis. But it's hard to get people to stop doing the spending. Right, to tell them to just slow down. And I'll give you this example, and I'll slow down at that point. The example is this: prior to 2019, the average savings rate for America, and it can never really go over, it was like 7.8%. It was the weirdest thing, because that's why experts said, hey, save save at just 10%, but nobody even saved that much. They barely ever did it. And everybody says it's impossible to save, it's impossible, we can never do that, we will never do that. In April 2020, when everybody was stuck at home, the saving rate went up to 33%. Period. Like, it wasn't impossible. It's like we had so many options to do everything that we want to do. When the options are gone, then all the money stays within us. So, but turns out at the end of 2021, the saving rate, we know what it went back to? 7%. like
everything opened back up.
Everybody's like, hey, I can't save anymore, guys. Like, let's be real. I can't save.
Right.
Actually, we have a quick follow-up on regards to the federal student loan, right? So there's this whole movement of how did they say? Eliminate it, cancel it.
Oh, cancel it. They'll never.
Cancel student loan.
You said they'll never cancel it.
Like, everybody that says cancel it are those same kids that didn't study anything about economics. So like this is the reason why you're in this situation. Like, this is not how it works. This is not how it works. The thing is, if you cancel. One, the people that you're canceling for are typically the higher crust, right? There's a lot of people that never took these student loans, and therefore they don't have that opportunity to get the whatever moratorium you're trying to say cancellation. They're not benefiting, and majority of the people tend to be Black and brown people. So now there's a few of us that are at the higher threshold per se, right? Yeah, we'll benefit from this cancellation, but everybody else that's non-Black and brown will also benefit from this cancellation. As such, what happens? Basically, prices go up. everything goes up. Because if everybody's richer, then everybody can spend more. If everybody can spend more, then everything is cheaper again. So nobody could just be, this society cannot live in this construct of everybody's a millionaire. Because if everybody's a millionaire, then the person with $1,000,001 is richer than the last guy. If that makes any sense.
No, it makes sense. It's just like, I guess my question was, okay, so why requesting canceling student loan, but then still kids are like high school kids are applying for college right now, and then they're applying for loans.
Yeah,
and
it's a combination of problems that it's a deep problem that was created and by almost like mistake by politicians, and this is me, it's gonna be messed up, but I'm gonna say it. It was actually created under the Obama administration with Biden, the first one, where because people were saying, hey, do something about student loans. So Obama and that administration did their research and said, hey, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna consolidate all these loans. We're gonna create federal student loans, right? We're gonna federalize it. We're gonna take some Sallie Mae, Freddie Mac, whatever it is, we're gonna make them federal. So they did that. At the same time, what that said is that to colleges, it's like, well, before private loans were basically saying some people will get some loans, this amount you could get. They were being more selective, but the federal loan says anybody could get whatever. So we were basically carte blanche. So every time we went in there, it was because of those rules and regulations, we kept on signing with no real understanding what's going to happen next. And because of it, what ends up happening is that the school said, well, we could just raise the prices anyways, because the government's going to pay, and everybody's going to pay for this, and it's going to make us a lot of money. And that's what everybody did. The reason that prices of schools went up is because everybody wanted to live in schools that mirrored almost higher middle classness. And that's a whole other situation. That means you wanted 24-hour electricity on campus, 24-hour Wi-Fi, 24-hour security, the people to run this entire thing. And because you're running this entire thing, it costs money, and all that money is being passed down to the students who are paying more in their tuitions. Does that make any sense?
That's a great explanation.
So now it kind of flows into this scenario where they're like, hey, Biden, do something. But Biden was part of the problem to begin with. It's like, stop doing stuff. Just stop it. If anything, you could probably start telling people to shift down their consumption, their lifestyles, and really start understanding what's important versus then buying into the fantasy. And it kind of got political. People are gonna hate me.
No. So what would you tell? So what's the first step for the person who's sitting with a huge debt? Let's just say any debt. Like it could just be like house debt, car debt, credit card debt, and they want to do something. They want to have some type of net worth. What do you say to them?
I would say the first thing, and I think it's one of those innocuous things. Innocuous? Hey, English is my third language, but it's one of those things that a lot of people just don't think about, but it's really to sit there and sit with yourself and write down your goals and your plans for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. People just don't do that. Because we don't do that, it's like we're getting in a car, we're driving aimlessly into like wherever direction. We have no clue. It sounds kind of ridiculous on its face, but in truth, that's what we don't do. And that's what got us in this situation to begin with. We had no plan. So ultimately, I'd say first, write down your plans. And then I'll say, take inventory. Take an inventory, meaning that, you get on an app, which is free, like mint.com or Personal Capital. You put in all your financial stuff. And so you could actually see where your net worth is. The people that typically hide from their money are the ones that's never going to tackle it. So that's the first thing you need to do. Take action, look at those issues, hold it down, understand what the problems are, and just kind of double in on those. Once you get to that point where you realize your debt, there's a couple things you can do. One, wealth is simple. It's like in 3 things. I think it's 3. So you decrease your expenses, you increase your income, and you invest the difference. That's those 3 things. No matter where you go, whatever book you read, whatever person you listen to, if you come down to the last 3 things, it always would be the same. You're gonna have to decrease your expenses because you don't need to spend that much. Whatever you think you're spending, you don't really need to spend that much. You got to increase your income because that's what people used to do back in the day. We had multiple jobs. We did whatever we could to bring in more money into the household. A lot of us were just not working as hard as the last generation was. And ultimately, the last one is invest the difference. Either you're investing in yourself, your self-improvement, so you can make more money, or you're invested in relationships that's going to bring and add more value to you, give you better networking, maybe give you a better job, give you better money, Or you get into personal investments, which is your 401ks, your retirement stuff, your out of, I guess, after tax investments. Then you have your small business investments and real estate. So all of these things are things that you have to kind of go through in order to get there. So if you have a lot of credit card debt, I would say tackle that first. I'll say a couple of things. If you have a matching contribution at your job, put in for that matching, because that's 100% contribution. That's 100% matching. You cannot match that in the investment world. You can't match that anywhere. You get that matching, you'll be happy. After that, you start tackling down your high interest credit card debt as much as possible. So you could get that out the way. So you could learn from those mistakes, realize that you don't have to keep lording into your credit cards and creating a problem that you cannot solve. And ultimately, after that, that's when you get into becoming a little bit more tax efficient, paying down more debt, hopefully calling your student loan companies and see if they have any programs that you could get into. Ask the questions, sit with these questions, sit with these answers, and you could get somewhere. I know that's a lot.
No,
I think I'm gone.
Yeah, it's great. Great information. You've made it very simple. Decrease your expense, increase your income.
That being said,
invest
I
with
think I'm out of
experience.
here.
No, you're still here. I can see you. I think you froze, but you're still here.
So I was going to ask him because I know.
I'm back.
You're back. Welcome back.
Yeah.
You want to say 2 seconds.
Yeah, I'm sorry about it. I don't know. When you're saying good stuff on the internet, people's like, cancel him.
No.
Where did I leave off at? Do you remember?
No, you did great. So we were talking about decreasing our expense, increase our income, and invest the difference. And Attorney Camilien have the next question for you. So fire away, Attorney Camilien.
Hard questions.
No, it's not going to be hard. I was just going to say, if somebody wants to reach out to you and find out more information about you, about what you're like, what kind of social media platforms are you on? I know you have a podcast. Tell us everything.
Okay, cool. If you want to actually link up with me, it's fairly simple. You can find me on IG or on my website at www.theneighborhoodfinanceguy.com. You could Google my name and you'll always find me. I got like a lot of features. I get a lot of conversations with different people and so on and so forth. And yeah, and the IG is the same thing. The handle is the entire word all the way through, and you'll be able to find me there. And as well, you can also find me and a couple of friends of mine on the Financial Griot podcast on all the internets and interwebs and so on and so forth, because that's what we do. Are you cutting me off? It's over? Oh, man.
No, you're here. You're here.
Okay, cool.
No.
Yes,
no,
and I also do offer consultations, but I kind of just do it because, hey, if you want to really learn and you want to really change, it's there for you. But I think some people really want that extra context to get more information about, how they could actually manage their own funds. That's also available for them. On top of that, I typically try to, every once in a while, I'll drop like a free workshop where really it's a workshop. We'd be in there for a good 3 or 4 or 5 hours if we have to talk about financial literacy, because this took me 8 to 10 years to learn. I could actually tell you what it is, but it's just not that simple. I think that's what people need to move on from, the idea of it's going to be easy. It took you 4 years to get into debt, and you want it to happen in a day? Nah, it's going to take a while to kind of figure that out as well on the back end. And to become a millionaire, I would say that to anybody here, even if you're investing $100 a week for 40 years, you become a millionaire, 1.6 million, straight up. On just investing in an ETF. So, and if you're doing even $500 per month, you can actually get there 30 years itself, even investing in an ETF. So with that being said, for me, I'm like, if that's all you need to tell me to become a millionaire, then why not do it? Why not figure it out?
So I'm currently on your website, showing your website.
I see.
Amazing resource that you have, which is connected to my follow-up question. You are very transparent through this journey. And
yes. You got to go to the homepage. Go to the homepage.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to find. Okay, so
it says the home at the front. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then
you go all the way down.
All the way down.
Yeah, that's where you see everything
exactly.
from beginning to end.
So what is the mindset in regards to the transparency that you and your wife had to just put it out there? Like, what motivated you to do that?
One, I'm probably the most transparent one. My wife is more like introverted than I am. I think I'm just one of those people that I don't like the feeling of hiding. I don't like the feeling of being ashamed of something. And I think a lot of people have been ashamed of money and money conversations for the majority of their lives. And because of it, I fight against my natural tendency. And I've always like, okay, I'm gonna do the complete opposite. I'm gonna be completely transparent because I want to show people how to get there. I guess if I went through this journey and I'd said nothing and I popped up in 2023 a millionaire, people were like, "Oh, you were lucky. You did, everything worked out for you." But in this situation, I'll show them from day one. I didn't have any money coming in. I didn't have a lot. My first job, I was making 23K before taxes. I was bringing in $1,000 a month. You know how I remember? Because they only paid us once a month. Like the state of Florida was a savage person. So I was able to learn from the very beginning. And a lot of people just don't. I guess when you're quote unquote poor, they don't pay attention to you. Like, hey, this guy has so much debt. I'm doing better than him. I'm not paying attention to him. I'm like, you might want to pay attention. You might want to figure this out. And now the same people that used to say stuff like that are trying to figure out, hey man, can you tell me a little bit more? I'm like, tell you what? I told you everything. And that's why we have this website, because I have over 250 blogs on here now. 250, like you could read everything from beginning to end and you'll learn all the tips and tricks that I utilize, and all that stuff is actually inside this one that says the NetMax financial plan that I've actually worked on for single people, for people with kids, like single moms and single dads. I've also worked one for people over 50. I've done one for married couples, and I've to the point where everybody keeps asking, like, how do I create the next one? Because somebody asked, and I create the next system that other people can use to kind of solve this entire equation for them. But it's up to them to actually take that action. Like Godfrey said, all of it comes down to your own actions.
You are a very generous gentleman, Mr. Gonzalez. That's a lot.
Life is win-win. Life is win-win.
Yes. So the website is the neighborhoodfinanceguy.com, and he has so many tools there that it's time for us to implement it. Okay. So he's providing the knowledge, and then we implement it, and then hopefully we get near to his network right now, right?
Oh, I could get near today. I could get it and I could beat it depending on when you guys start. I would also say this. I think there's this negative connotation with budgeting or being disciplined as it's all like wrong and done. And I don't know, they probably think I'm sitting there eating ramen noodle from a package. But me and my wife, we love to go to a restaurant where they serve ramen. That's a whole different scenario. And we actually went to 12 countries in 14 days. I think I was kind of reverse it sometimes.
Wow,
But it's 12 countries in 14 days in 2019. And we didn't spend as much as people might perceive it to spend. It was weird. It's like you learn along the way how to either be more resourceful, be better with money, and then to prioritize the things that really matter to you. So for me, going to brunch was not a big thing for me. I didn't find like a lot of pure joy from it. Like going to happy hour was very expensive. I didn't find a lot of happiness there. So I started doing things that really spoke to me, and I found that to be part of my joy. This is why it's not really about the money. At some point, you realize it's really about finding your own joy and waking up in the morning, feeling free, whatever it is. All of that actually does matter. And all those people that said, well, I didn't want to budget, I didn't want to do this, I didn't want to do that, they've never been out of this country. They just haven't. When you turn around and you look back at all the people that naysayed everything, you realize they don't really do anything. And you're like, oh, okay. So I try to really challenge people to just follow your own path, because that's going to get you where you need to go.
That's really great advice.
Great advice. Mrs. Como is with us this evening. She says, really loving your conversation. Thank you for your support. Appreciate you. All right. Daphne, any other questions, or are we just gonna
I could ride out with more stuff for y'all, man. I'm like,
it's
not up here.
In the works, because you have so much information that you are giving to us generously, free of charge. Is there a book in the work? Kind of like, what's next for Mr. Delva-Gonzalez?
I've been trying to do this book for a very long time. I started writing it. I had like a draft on it, because that's actually how I got into doing these blog posts. I said, well, I got so tired and frustrated with myself. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna write like a couple blog posts on LinkedIn, maybe like 20, to kind of get me out the funk, right? So I did 50. I'm like, okay, this is getting weird.
50.
Then I was like, all right. And then I kind of keep pushing that bracket and say, you know what? I'll just put it on the website or something. And once the website takes off, then I'll just write the book. Lo and behold, I'm 250 in. I'm like, God dang it. Like, it's getting weird. So ultimately, I'm still working on it, but I think part of the journey that I've been on is because I've been learning from conversations such as this, like what is really important to have in a book that matters. Because I think when it comes to personal finances, everything has been written about it. It's not new. This has actually been incorporated in the Bible like hundreds of folds over, like all the ideas, all the understandings, it's in there. But everybody just keeps saying that, oh, I need the next book. I don't want to draft the next book. I want to draft the next solution that's going to get people out, whatever it is, and make them automatic millionaires as millennials, as Black and brown people. That's what I want to impact. That's the change that I want to see. And all these changes are simple. Like, these are things that my grandmother used to do that I had to think about, like, hey, how did a woman who, never made more than $16K a year be lauded by her entire community in Haiti, loved by a lot of people, give a lot to the church, give a lot to people, had over 6 kids, took care of all of them all the time, had everybody fed, so on and so forth. And I started thinking back, and I remember her doing these things like, well, what people now in society call new. Meal prepping. In the Haitian community, we did that all the time. You get that shoja, and then everybody grabbed some food and they went to work with it. That was meal prepping. That's what that was. On top of that, you have, side hustles, what now is a cool new hip term. But I remember my grandmother waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning making cremas. And this is stuff that she did. And because she was bringing more income, no matter what she was making, they were these are very smart people. These are very savvy people. They went to the market to do stuff at the market, but they haggled, they bartered, they understood the numbers, they understood the value of money, and they incorporated in their lifestyle. So they were never unhappy people. They were just very laborious, very driven people. I think we lost that along the way, to the point where a couple years back, I approached my best friends when they were paying attention to me at anything. I was like, hey, I can actually create a family plan with my T-Mobile. And that family plan, I was only paying $90 I would be only paying $90 per month with 4 other people on there. At the time, each of us were paying on average around $125 per month for our cell phone bills. Now, even till this day, we only pay less than $25 per month. And we also got Netflix. So there are ways that people can utilize their network right now, their family, their community, their friends, to really cut costs wherever it needs to happen.
That's great.
I'm out here with the pression.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, that's great information. Just about even our elders, these were things that they were doing before, that we didn't even think about. We took for granted. So it's always been there. It's just a matter of like paying attention and then figuring out, how to incorporate it into our lives and make it like, a part of our life.
Yeah, Daphnée, you got it. You got it. Daphnée was like, man, he makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Because it's true. It's all these things that they did. And they really worked as a community and a network. Because my mother didn't know how to drive until probably when I was in my 30s, to be honest with you. She didn't know the entire time. And that was a couple years back when she learned how to drive. But before then, she'd rely on her network. That means she'll call somebody, they'll come pick her up, they'll do whatever. They had a structure. They might not have made a lot of money, but they also made a lot of sense with their decision and their savvy. And I think we could definitely learn from that as a community of people. I think we moved away from it. We kind of like, oh, we want to move out. We want to be different. We're going to da. But it's costing us a lot of money. Right. Like some people, like, you don't really need that one studio apartment that's costing you $2,000 a month that you can barely afford. Maybe you kind of need to move back home, at least for a time being, to pay down your credit card debt and so on and so forth. It's not the end of the world. And making those considerations or concessions, that's part of the process and it's part of the journey. And maybe you get to say that story. Maybe when you're standing at a podium somewhere, it's like, yeah, I was struggling and I went back home. And like I was living in the basement and everybody's like, oh, look at them go. Do not lean into these challenges. Lean into the story of having the $200,000 student loan debt and just talk about it. Because people have become rich, if not millionaires, based off sharing the stories about having debt, which is weird.
Right.
So everybody is doing something, but you can't hide within this thing because everybody has it. That's why I said when you said, "Hey," and some people don't know lawyers have debt. I'm like, nah, I know all of that. I watch them all the time. I could see the numbers on people's heads. I could see how people react to different things, and you could tell by their demeanor that they're uncomfortable. You know, even when they're spending with that credit card, it's not a happy moment. It's like I don't know if I'm gonna get canceled right now, but let's roll this dice. Let's go. And the pressure is like, yeah, you went travel with your friends, but you going back home, and that travel is costing you like an additional $5,000 for the rest of your life. That's insane.
Yeah.
Mr. Lawrence, you have been so generous, and I also want to be generous. So about the book. So last week when we had Mr. Rene Godfrey, he gave us the formula to write a book like snaps. 10-10 formula. 10 pages. No, I'm sorry, 10 chapters, 10 pages. Right, Daphnée?
Yep.
10 chapters, 10 pages. And then he said anything more than that is just our ego speaking. So you can go back to our live and watch that. And then also, I was part of a webinar like the other day. Like a lot of us, and then this is for our audience as well. So if you are dreading writing a book, I promise you all, I'm in the same dread as well. Okay, that's why I'm trying to find those information and bringing people such as Mr. Gonzalez to share his knowledge with us. And so you don't have to sit down and type your book. You can just record it. You can just record it via Zoom or via other different way you want to record it. And then there's programs where you can get it transcribed. So you just say everything you want to say, chapter by chapter. You just say it, record it, transcribe it, obviously edit it, and then bam, you got a book. 10 chapters, 10 chapters.
10 pages, 10 chapters. I know I've written way more than that.
You already knew that.
I read way more than that, but yeah, I don't know. I really just want to give something different though. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's not because I'm not an author by like some kind of dream. Like that's not what I want to do. It's more of a thing because I just feel like I want to show people it's possible. And I think it's always been the case. When everybody said it was impossible, I was the only person who was like, but what if? Like, what if? What are the odds? Where can I fail here, right? Like, if everything is going to suck anyways, I mean, I as well try it out. Right. And I found that it's not impossible, it's just improbable. And that's two different M's. Like, you just have to decide which one's going to be there for you.
But if you give us bits and pieces, then it might be easier for us to chew. So it may not be about everything. And then it could be different, what do you call it?
Iterations, the iterations, versions, and stuff like that. Yeah, I consider it. Now where?
Now where?
Like I be lying to myself. Like I be putting deadlines like on the calendar. The deadline gets scratched to go to the next Google Calendar.
Well, let us know when you write that book.
Let us know. Let us know. We'll have you back on to share with our audience and to support you. Thank you so much for being our guest this evening at Live in Conversation. I hope all of you have been watching. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the comment. One of my mentors said to me, the biggest compliment that you can give me is implementation. So I hope that you take the knowledge that Mr. Delva-Gonzalez has been sharing, and you don't have to start with everything. Just take one. Take one and one with it. And then once you're comfortable, take the next one. His website is the neighborhoodfinanceguy.com. So connect with him via Instagram, Facebook. If you are on it, he is on it. Mm-hmm. Any last thought, Daphnée or Mr. Gonzalez? I keep saying Gonzalez. Actually, I
started off Gonzalez, but I actually hyphenated with my wife. My wife name, so her dad's name is in the front, I guess.
Oh,
so it's Delva-Gonzalez.
Nice.
So that way, because he also has like 3 daughters, so the likelihood of passing over to the next level is different. And my dad wasn't around, so I didn't care to kind of like let him live on forever. I rather kind of honor the guy that been there, stayed there, and everything like that. So
I love that. That's
sweet. I've heard that before, but that is so sweet.
Yeah, it's kind of hard though, because sometimes I was like, "What? Delva-Gonzalez? What?" Like, yeah. Like,
Attorney
I
Camilien.
give a lot of I learned a lot from that process. And I give a lot of women credit because changing your name is very difficult. Like there's a lot of you got to change the passport, the driver's license, social security, the taxes get weird, everything goes out. So
100%.
It's a lot of effort. So
And if people pick and choose what they want to call you.
yeah, I'm cool with that too. It's like you call me Gonzalez, all right, cool. You call me Lawrence, all right, cool. It is what it is.
I've had a name crisis myself. This has been live in conversation. That Camilien know what I'm speaking about. So it's initially Daphnée Renee for me. My father is Renee. And then for some reason I went to Renee Antoine, which is my husband's last name, because I wanted Renee to be my first name because people say Daphne, and I didn't like that. Because my name is Daphnée. And then most people can say Renee because I don't know.
That don't make no sense. That's some blunt stuff.
Therapy session.
That's some blunt
therapy
stuff.
session.
Management, we can have this conversation.
How can you not say Daphne, but you can say Renee? Like,
exactly. People keep calling me Daphne. I'm like, no, me is Daphne is life.
We'll talk about it after, but I'll tell you why.
Yeah, like see, look at child linking up. Like he's like, I feel it. Like,
thank you, everyone, for being live in conversation. We appreciate you. Share, so that more people can get this amazing information. She said, "I love my Rosalind Winnie. This is my auntie, my father's sister. Thank you for being live with us, auntie. I appreciate you." So take this information, run with it, implement it, so that we can share with our children, so that we can build generational wealth. That's it for now. We're gonna be live in conversation with you all next Wednesday at 8 p.m. and we will bring another guest who will be speaking more with us about how to thrive financially. Thank you to Mr. Lawrence Delva-Gonzalez of the Neighborhood Finance Guy for being our guest this evening. And Camilien Law, as always, you are here with us sharing your knowledge. So if anyone watching right now, you need an attorney in your corner, regardless of what it is, or even if you need somebody to help you with maybe an immigration concern or a case, or you want to bring your family here, connect with Attorney Camilien at 847-410-9022, and her website is camilienlaw.com. Bye for now. Daphnée Antoine, Daphnée Camilien, and Mr. Lawrence Delva Gonzalez signing off.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
peace.